Hello, Allison Ziggy here, and you are joining me live for the first ever solo episode of Princess Uninterrupted, the podcast. I've had the most fabulous guests on these past few weeks, and it's been a really rewarding experience to conduct interviews, introduce you to some people who I've known through my personal life, who I've known through my professional life, and I just feel this overwhelming sense of gratitude. When I think about the guests who we've had on the show and the issues that they've shown light on and the expertise that's been shared with us, my goal for this brand and my underlying theme has always been this concept that anything is possible. If you have the power to dream about it, if you have the bravery and the strength to admit that you want something, you have the power and the capacity to make it possible. Today I was walking home from Whole Foods and I had my groceries and I was so grateful. I was listening to this song from Justin Bieber. It's called Hallelujah Everything. And it's just about being grateful for everything in your life, like everything, being grateful for being able to brush your teeth, being grateful for a walk outside. And I just soaked in this vibration and really was so grateful to be walking home with groceries from Whole Foods. I could get whatever I wanted. And the sun was shining. I was wearing this beautiful jacket that I got at a New York City sample sale. I was wearing a fun skirt, one of my favorite Tory Burch bags that I've literally had forever. And I just felt like we made it. I felt light years beyond where I was when I recorded that Quantum Leap Week challenge in so many ways. And I've been really thinking about the depths of sharing my stories and just how behind the scenes there was a lot that I was struggling with this summer and before this summer, like things that I wasn't really talking about publicly. I do want to kind of peel the curtain back, not to pull Taylor Swift, say like it's about the backstory of what was happening and then not provide the context, but actually go into some of what was happening in my world, because I know that I'm not alone in the struggles. And let me just like say this without any expectation of anything. If I don't want to release this, I don't have to release this. But I just want to say there were moments this past year where things were really freaking hard. I think that for me, I just found it so shocking, the challenges that I faced, because this was so of the soul that I was shocked that it didn't work right away. I've been building my business since 2019, pre-pandemic. After 2018 and I left my corporate job, I had this major download of what Allison Ziggy was meant to be. The calendar was what came through so strongly. It was like calendar, planners, calendar company, calendar. But then when I tried to execute, it was like trying to speak in a different language that nobody understood. And so I was like, wow. And I had always been very professionally successful. So I was like, okay, well, why wouldn't this thing that I'm arguably good at all the components of immediately work? And the answer was basically self-image, the way you see yourself. I had so many limiting beliefs that were holding me back, and limiting beliefs that spanned back multiple generations. This is deep cycle breaker work, okay? So there was a lot that I had to shift internally, and there was also a lot of ego tied up in the desire. This was a soul-given, soul mission chosen kind of calling. It was a calling. The only way I can describe it is calling. My soul was called to this, but then my ego was trying to control the outcome and wanted it to happen right away. I really resented my tech career, even though it had provided me my lifestyle and my travel in New York City. And so I was doing these things where I would be meditating and focusing on my quantum leaps and journaling and building my calendar. I would be on sales calls and I would have all my pens and all my journals and papers spread out everywhere. I felt like I was living a double life. I felt like there were two different versions of Allison, and I just felt like it was impossible to consolidate them. But after I left corporate, things got really hard. It was also weird because it was like this dream that I had wanted for so long. I wanted to leave corporate. I wanted to be full-time in my business. My goals were all based around my expenses. My rent in New York alone was like $5,000, not counting any other expenses, which was like more than I arguably should have been paying anyway. But real estate in New York City is insane. I can break down the decisions, and one of the things that has really served me on my journey is just realizing if anybody else was you, they would make the same decisions. I don't need to justify my decision. Like, I lived where I wanted to live and whatever. But yeah, like financially, probably not the best move. Then when I left my job where I had no longer had my stable income, it was really hard. I could not pay my bills. And I was living off of my 401k. I was using my 401k to pay off my credit cards, and I was using my 401k to pay rent. I had amassed a decent amount in there, and I was just using it to pay things. And month after month, I was just showing up religiously. I was really showing up every day, making videos, making challenges, doing live streams, like doing all the things that I thought I needed to do in order to be successful. I hired a coach. I was going to the seminars. I was like, literally, if you can tell me what I need to do to make it work, I will do whatever. I don't believe that hard work equals success, but I still think that it is an admirable quality to show up every day for something that's important to you. And I've never had trouble showing up every day. I breathe this mission. And it was so hard for me to articulate like specifically what it is. If you're in these coaching programs, you'll hear your I am statement, like I am, or like who you serve. Basically, it would be like, I help female solo travelers in their 30s plan their first trip so that they can step into their highest timeline. And like, that's probably even too fluffy. Like, you have to get so granularly specific with these things, and then you can move on. And so I struggled so much with niching. And that was when I moved into last year, was like, okay, I just need to pick a niche. I picked dating because that was arguably where I had struggled the most, and it was also what I was writing about. And so I was just like, okay, fine. We're gonna talk about twin flame stuff. We're gonna talk about dating. And it like didn't convert. I felt like people were coming to me and looking for support, but not on dating. Even the clients I was coaching, they were like, can we like not talk about dating? And I was like, yeah. So funny. But this summer was when everything finally shifted for me. It was Quantum Leap Week, but it was like this moment where I was like, screw everyone else. I'm going to do what feels right and feels true for me. And that's talking about the calendar, and that's talking about Quantum Leap Week. And so I pivoted. I just started talking about Quantum Leap Week. My TikTok started to really take off after not growing at all. Like for 6 months, I was just posting about dating, and I was lucky to ever get a follower. I post about Quantum Leap Week, and like my account has more than doubled, tripled in a very short amount of time. Seeing like, okay, wait, when I talk about this, it is resonating, and I love talking about this. I could talk about this all day, every day. I live and breathe manifestation and the subconscious mind and energetics and the quantum physics and the mysteries of the universe. So it was like, that has always been what I've been really super interested in. And that's where all of my knowledge really does exist. And if you want to take it a step further with the niche, it was really like the calendar. I could not stop thinking about the calendar. Like in terms of my planners, it no longer became about, I want this to be the biggest sold out planner launch ever. I just want to pour so much love into it and use it as like, I want to make this as good as it possibly can be. And seeing how far that it comes every time I make a version, I'm just so proud of it. I trust there's a path. I trust there's a way. I know this is meant to be in stores. I see in my mind's eye this being in Nordstrom. I see it. I see it. I see it. I know it. I know it. Anyway, so I started tying all these concepts together, like quantum leaping and the calendar and manifestation. And I've been doing that forever, but I started making my video content about that as well, as opposed to talking about dating and trying to do this. And I stopped listening to everybody else. And that for me was when it all shifted. And this summer, there were some moments that were really incredibly challenging. Let me just paint the scene for you. So like I was saying that like, yeah, I didn't have money. I ended up leaving New York. I talk about this again in my writing. Like there was a moment I could have chosen to go back into a corporate job, and it was like this moment of utter honesty. And in the moment I had to choose myself. It was so terrible. There was a pattern where I would take a job I knew I wouldn't want, and I would count down the days until I could leave. I got offered this job, and I was fully prepared to repeat the pattern. And when I was in this interview, the last question that the man who was interviewing me asked is, how do you feel working for men who don't respect women? And I'm not even joking. He literally was asking me this because I guess there was a partner who would ignore whatever the channel person would say and would go straight to him. And so he was trying to ask, like, are you okay working with someone like this? We'll never have his side of the story, but for me, it felt too much like a test from the universe for me to be able to say yes. I could not say yes. It was like the dead of winter in New York. All I did was go to the gym, try to make content in my poorly lit apartment, and pray for things to change. and they didn't. I had some people in my world who really, really showed up for me. Like, my friends were so there for me. And to this day, my friends in New York are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. Like, I love them so much and I am so grateful for them. And I wouldn't have been able to get through this period of time in my life if it weren't for the people in my world, not just my New York friends. If you're listening to this, like, you know who you are. There were people who just were so there for me during a really difficult time. And I never gave up my dream throughout all of this. I was literally just taking honest action. Looking back, I will not regret any of these decisions. I don't care. I love myself enough to not punish myself or feel bad. So anyway, there was this moment in Athens where I like decided that I was ready to let go of my lease, even though I really couldn't have signed anything, even if I wanted to. But I was like, yeah, we're not signing. I talk a lot about this in my writing on my Substack. Like, that's probably where I felt the safest to share it. But I basically was like, I'm nomadic. I don't know what comes next. What came next is I moved into my mom's house. My mom, I love her to death, but her house is not the most comfortable environment. And it was hard. I spent months trying to convince myself that I could fix my life through fixing her, and was just trying to force her to fix up the house and do things that she didn't want to do. And that's okay. I had a different vision for who she had to be than who she is, and it wasn't fair to her. I was ignoring my own problems, pretending that I could just focus on other people and it would all work out, and it didn't. The months that followed were so hard. I got a part-time job and I was doing fashion on the side, and it was crazy. Working for $14 an hour is so humbling. I feel like it changed something for me. I was like working retail, and then I started cat sitting, and I started doing it more in Philly, and that was what ended up changing my scenery. Like, I was no longer in my mom's house working at White House Black Market. I would have never been able to stay on that timeline. It just was like, it was a dark period, but it wasn't bad, if that makes sense. I faced what I had to face, but it was like December, January, February. And then March was when I started traveling. And then March, April, May were like half of my time in like Philly and stuff. And then I started traveling for good starting in June. So I've just been traveling pretty much since June. Not just Philly, like other places too. Whatever reality you decide you get to have is what your experience of life will be. There's a version of me who would have gone into corporate and would have done anything to maintain the quality of life that I had. And then there's a version of me who would have believed that I wasn't worthy of the life that I wanted anymore because I had given it up, and would have stayed at my mom's house working retail. There was no amount of time that I was going to be able to put in at that retail job to get to the next level that I wanted to go to. And that's what it really taught me, was that time isn't what changes your circumstances. You make the decision and you make the leap, and then life will follow it and work out. Now, I had trouble believing this because I really wanted to stay in New York, and I believed that if I just kept trying, it would work out. And I guess maybe I could have re-signed my lease and stayed there, but it felt like a prison more than it felt like an expansive move. It would have felt like, okay, I need to figure out how to make this much money just so that I can survive. And that didn't feel like a vibe for me. But I don't know. I decided that it wasn't worth it, and I left. But that wasn't a failure. That was also like deciding what was most important to me. I would have had to probably go back in corporate just because my nervous system was so on fire. It felt so not enough. Can't do it. Not enough. So I finally got myself into a place where my nervous system feels so regulated. Like, my basic expenses are met without me even really having to do anything. I just feel so relaxed, and like I'm able to create from a pure space within my heart. Like, I'm able to create from a place of service as opposed to needing to create so that I can survive. And that feels really good. That feels really relaxed. That feels like I can truly believe that I'm supported and taken care of without worrying. But there were moments this summer that were really hard. Once I started traveling full time, there were moments that I still was in the new reality, but things hadn't caught up yet. When I went on my trip to New Hampshire, there were days that I had to ration my gas to go to the beach. The beach was like 20 miles, and I would have to make sure I had enough gas to go. There were days I would literally eat peanut butter sandwiches, not even peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like peanut butter sandwiches, because I had pennies to live off of for an extended period of time. I was just eating angel hair pasta, cheese if I could be so lucky, but like angel hair pasta with olive oil on it and peanut butter sandwiches and perfect bars. And that's what I lived off of. I was so grateful when I would have eggs. It rewired my beliefs about money on such a rudimentary level that I became unstoppable, and I truly learned who I was. So when I say that I was grateful today, where I was walking with 2 bags full of groceries from Whole Foods, I fully, deeply mean it. I recognize that there are people with families who are struggling to feed them, and I could have stayed with my mom and ate the food at her house. It's not like I was out on the street and was going to die. That's not the case, and I don't want to downplay what people experience, but this was a very real experience for me where I couldn't support myself. I couldn't eat what I wanted to eat. I was relying on the kindness of others in my life. It was so hard. The weirdest thing is that it actually reinforced and deepened my faith in the universe and in myself. I never believed in manifestation more than when I was experiencing these moments. I knew that this would be a story I would tell one day, and I knew that this story had the capacity to change someone's life and someone's perspective, because for so long I felt like I was the problem. How I finally shifted it was I became available for better solutions, and things started to trickle in. I started to make more money in the business. I started to get opportunities for higher paying work that paid way more than retail. And it wasn't a 9-to-5. It wasn't a corporate thing. It was just a short-term exchange for money. And it was like that same sensation of just feeling this overwhelming gratitude of, I know what it feels like to not have this. I don't think that you have to struggle in order to be successful, but I think as a result of the struggle, you can use that to your advantage. And when I finally decided I was done with that narrative, like I took it upon myself and I found opportunities that I could make it work. It feels so crazy to be here and to like I didn't have money to go to a $5 yoga class. I remember I got a coffee and somebody was like, oh, it's $4. And I was like, I don't have that. Like I didn't have $4 in my bank account. I had a friend who came to visit me and I had negative 18 cents in my bank account. I just remember like looking my friend in the eyes and I'm like, I love you so much, but I can't afford to do anything. And she's like, it doesn't matter. That's not why I'm here. Like, I love you so much. I will always be here for you. Let me take care of you today. And she did. And it was one of the times I felt the most loved, was like when I was able to honestly sit in front of the people who were in my world and sit across from them. And they held me in my time of challenge. I consider myself 100% on the other side in the physical, but definitely energetically. Like definitely energetically. I know I'm never going back to that again. And I know how to get out of that now. And money's come to me in really interesting ways ever since. And that was a result of quantum leaping. Like quantum leap week really was the last time I felt that way. That I had these experiences. And I since have shifted out for good. And quantum leaping's a matter of choosing which vibration you want to align with. And I guess part of me could feel overexposed or like, why are you sharing this? I honestly believe that because I went to the depths of understanding what it is like to not have these things, it's given me a better understanding than people who have never had that. These lessons are some of the most valuable experiences I've ever had in my entire life because I understand the depths of feeling that way, and I also know how to transmute the shame that comes with that. I also understand what patterns created those situations on a subconscious level, but also generationally. And it also really has just deepened my gratitude and my appreciation for life in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I used to get so frustrated whenever other people would be like, it just shows up, it just shows up. Like, it did, but it only showed up once I started to change the way I viewed myself. Once I started actually viewing myself as successful and viewing my cause as worthy and viewing what I had to say as valuable, viewing myself as important, that was when reality started to shift. It really was the self-image work. It really was taking ownership of how much value I had to bring into the world and refusing to live that way anymore. And really opening myself up, and not from this place of desperation of like, I need to change my circumstances. Let me take action. Let me create an offer. Let me do these things. But really choosing myself again and again, and having my own back and not making it mean anything. Like there was this day I went for a run and I couldn't buy a bottle of water and I thought I was going to pass out. That was a huge red flag for me. That was when I was like, something needs to change. This isn't aligned. But it was so weird because there was such duality in the day, where like such contrast, where I ended up having one of the best days of my entire summer and it ended up being okay. Like at the same time, all my needs were met. I did get water. I had transportation. I had the bare essentials of what I needed. I never did go hungry. I wasn't eating necessarily what I wanted to eat. And I wasn't like bawling out. Like I said, like I couldn't even go to this yoga class. It felt like I was really struggling in a way that I had never struggled before. But I truly believe that as a result of that experience, it's given me the world. I don't take a single interaction for granted. I am so overwhelmingly present. I just like fully see people everywhere that I go. If I'm at the grocery store, I'm so present with who I'm interacting with. If I'm on the street, like wherever I am, I'm just so connected to reality. Not in a way where what you see is all that is, but this present moment, it really taught me how to create within the present moment, which is the way to wealth in life. And wealth and abundance is not just money. It also taught me how to just fully appreciate and receive love, and to fully appreciate and for value to take on more meaning than just money. And to really see myself, even when I had nothing, to realize that didn't mean anything about my credibility, that didn't mean anything about me as a person, that didn't mean anything about what was possible, that didn't mean anything about the viability of my business idea. It just meant that the way that I had been going about it created those results. If I wanted different results, I had to not just take different actions, but take actions from a different frequency. I had to operate at a different vibration. I had to find things and people and situations that were going to help me to get to that next level. I had to open myself up. And that's the power of transformation. That's the power of believing that anything is possible. That's the power of not letting your situation or your circumstances taint what you view to be possible. This is like being single and believing that love's not available just because it's not here in the physical 3D reality right now. Like, you're single until you're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just your beliefs. It's just your beliefs. I guess the whole point of this was just to say Quantum Leap Week single-handedly was the catalyst for changing my entire life again in a completely new way. It felt as though Quantum Leap Week from 2023 looped back to 2025 and it all came together, and I came out on the other side and I was finally able to pull forth the mission of what had been started all that time ago. And carrying along that path, on November 1st, we're going to be doing calendar hopping, quantum leaping. Oh my gosh, what's it even called? Like calendar hacking, calendar hopping. It should be called calendar hopping. Wait, I kind of like that. No, I'm going to save that one for the April one. Calendar hopping, like the Easter bunny, but calendar hacking. So it's on November 1st. It's also daylight savings time. So I want to create a really immersive experience for everybody who attends. It's completely free to attend. And there's also a bonus. You'll get an email when you sign up. And if you set up an alignment call with me, the first 3 people who sign up for an alignment call will get a special bonus. So this is whether or not you sign on as a client, but if there's just things that you're working through and you want support with manifestation, if you really want to deepen your knowledge of these principles, if you really want me to be your coach and your guide to look at your subconscious beliefs and help you upgrade the frequency from which you're operating so that you can magnetize your desires versus forcing and pushing and wishing things were different. And again, I say this without judgment because I get it. I just poured my heart out to you on like all the ways that I've changed. But it would be the honor of a lifetime to serve you. And that's really where my work truly shines. I mean, definitely in groups, but also one-on-one, I can really then I can channel with you and see what's actively happening and do some energetic work with you in the subconscious. And it's really fun. So make sure to set up a call. And I mean, obviously you get a bonus if you set up, but don't set up a call if you're not curious or interested in coaching, because then you're taking away the bonus from somebody who would be excited. But it's pretty amazing. So would love to have you, and would love to have you on the workshop as well. And I want you to attend live. I intentionally set it at 1 o'clock Eastern because it's 1 is what I'm going for. I know that it's 11 1, but whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I love you. Thank you so much for joining in to this episode today of Princess Uninterrupted, the first podcast. This was very vulnerable, but I love you and I hope that you enjoyed this. And yeah, bye.